I'm going to jump back to our first record in our database and talk a little bit about tagging and coding. You'll notice on the right side of the screen we have what we call layouts in Relativity. Layouts are web-based coding forms restoring the bibliographic data and metadata about a record, as well as tagging and coding structure used by the review team. They are highly customizable and completely secureable from user to user and from group to group. Right now I'm logged in as a power user. So you're going to see a lot of hosting coding forms available to me. This form that's called coding looks like it's concerned with a lot of issue tags here. One called first pass review looks very limited about the bibliographic data that it shows. If I were a first pass review, I'd probably be locked down to this coding form. And I wouldn't see all these others here on the list. I'd only see the forms that include the decisions that I personally needed to make. There was one here for assigning documents, another here for the privilege log, as well as one called all fields. This appears to be read-only metadata about the record. So let's go back to the coding drop-down. Here we can place rules on these layouts to ensure that the quality and consistency for the review. For instance, I can make a field read-only, like the control number and custodian fields, and even though I'm in edit mode in this form, I cannot edit those fields. An orange box means that a field is required throughout Relativity. So for this particular coding form, it looks like responsiveness is a required decision. If I were to uncheck any values and try to save it, it would not allow me to do so, as you can see here. Also set up our propagation rules. Let's say I tag a record as privileged, and I want that designation to automatically propagate to any other member of this record's family or any duplicate in the system. The copy from previous rule allows users to copy the coding decision from one document to the next before saving. This is particularly useful when batches of documents are assigned out to reviewers based on conceptual similarity, where quite often documents will be coded the same. We can also set up advanced logic on these to enforce best practices and workflow rules. Maybe in this particular review there is a rule that states, at this stage, a record cannot be tagged as both privileged and responsive at the same time. So if I were to try and save it with that designation, it would not allow me to save. Here it states document cannot be marked as responsive and privileged. Or if I were to go to a different place in my review, or if someone were to tag this document as privileged, they would have to pick a deeper determination with one of these subtypes. If I tried to save it without one of these subtypes, it would not be allowed. A privileged subtype must be selected for privileged documents. Now if I scroll down, we could even set up rules if someone were to tag a document, let's say, as super hot. Then we want to force them to leave a comment here in the comments field. Or if they tag a record as in Fuego, for example, in addition to the comments field, we're going to fire off an email to the lead partner stating something like, this document has been tagged as in Fuego, and here's the hyperlink. You may want to take a look. Some review platforms let you tag a record as reviewed, but we can set up some smart criteria to manage that process. So maybe if responsiveness, confidentiality, and privilege have all been addressed, we're going to automatically have that document flagged as reviewed and shoot off an email to the second tier reviewer. So what we're really trying to do is give you the tools to sit down with the case team, come up with the best practices and workflow for your review, and then solidify and automate those features. That everyone has the decisions, documents, and information they need in a very fluid and automated way without a ton of extraneous noise in a way that doesn't concern them. Are there any questions about the layouts in Relativity? Alright, I'm going to finish up the core reviewer interface by talking about related items pane, where we can put the different relational groupings about a record. Right now I'm showing you the family grouping to this record. So I have the original email here, the attachments to the email including the Excel document, the PowerPoint, this is our Word document in Korean, and the document that had those track changes that we showed earlier. Maybe I don't have those propagation rules for this family turned on, but I know that all of these records are responsive. What I can do is take a mass action right here by clicking on these 6. I can edit them, and then I can make a mass action determination here. I'm going to tag them all as responsive, and then I will hit save. Here we also have our duplicate information on this table, and it is fully customizable. Right now we're showing control number and the location. But instead of location, maybe we could change it to show the privilege designation if we want to do a quick QC of how duplicates of privileged documents are being coded in the system. We can also view the similar document information, and that's whether we're using similar document detection that's built into Relativity and powered by the analytics engine, or if we process the data through another tool prior to bringing it into Relativity. Relativity also keeps a full audit history for every user action in the system. Let me widen the menu bar here so you can see everything. Whether records are reviewed, updated, who did it, when they did it, how they did it, was it one of the propagation rules that was used we talked about earlier, or did they directly edit the record? I can click on details to take a little further look, and then I can export this in Excel, or I can even filter down. So say I didn't want to see everything and I only wanted to see the updates on the records, I could do that. As a side note, everything in Relativity that we audit can also be reported on. So whether you want to see how far we are into the review based on responsive designations or productivity reports to understand how many documents per hour or edits per hour are being done by the reviewers, all that in Relativity can be done inside the application. Finally, circling back, we also have a full production history of the document. So I can see all the productions that AS01 was associated with. May I want to look and see when it went out as part of the Acme production. I can see that it went out in September of 2008. Go up here to my radio button, click on the Acme production, and take a look at it. As you can see, it was marked confidential, and there are some redactions here. And maybe I'm curious to also see what it looked like in the Chicago production that was done a year later in 2009. Go up here to the drop down, click on the Chicago production, and as that pulls up, you'll see it looks pretty different. The redactions are different. It wasn't marked confidential then. So that's a quick and easy way to view all the various productions and see the differences between them without having to look through different databases or having a convoluted workflow. Do you have any questions about anything in our native file review or anything with regards